Well guys, for once you catch up with me, not on the banks of a river, in the kitchen, as you can see. Thought I'd just have a quick chat to you about how I knock up my ground bait. Now if you watch my videos, you will know that I do use shop bought ground baits, commercially available ground baits, but I always do tend to mix it with what I call in my videos white crumb or brown crumb. Now I do use more and more crumb as we get towards winter, and that's why I thought I'd bring this video out now, as the weather's getting colder, and I do tend to use mostly crumb with a bit of ground bait in with it, commercially bought ground bait, to sort of water it down, if you like, to dilute it as we get into the colder weather. But I just thought I'd run people through how I make up my crumb, and how I store it, etc, etc. Now, I mean, lots of people take a few slices of bread to the bank, soak it in a bit of river water, mash it up, and they're happy with that. Well, that's brilliant, absolutely great. But I like to do things slightly different and be a little bit more prepared than that. So what I like to do is prep up at home, get lots done at the same time, and then store it. I do make a lot of my ground bait over the summer. I'll come on to the reasons for that a little bit later on in the video. But you know, you can also make it now, which I'm going to do now, and you can make it so cheaply as well. You save yourself an absolute fortune on shop bought crumb. For example, if I grab my loaves from down here, there we go. What I would suggest you do is get onto the offers counter at your local supermarket. Put 6 loaves here. Now these loaves are normally 36p. Well, I got half a dozen here for the princely sum of 26p. So I've got 6 loaves here for £1.50. This is going to make a stack of ground bait, as you'll see in the end of the video. So you'll get £1.50's worth of ground bait, and you'll have stacks, absolutely stacks. So, to get started, what I like to do is use my trusty, as you've seen before in my videos, trusty blender. Very, very simple, as you can imagine. Literally just going to blitz this up. This is what is often referred to as liquidised bread. Literally bust these up, in they go. You're probably not going to be able to hear a word I'm saying while I'm blitzing this, so I'll shut up. A few bigger bits just left in there, which I'll just break up. Blitz them down a bit quicker. As you can see, I threw it in, crusts and all, even the crust off the end of the bread, all goes in. And there we are. You can see that. Lovely white crumb in there. Now, if I was using this just solely for chub fishing, I'll probably leave it like that, to be honest. However, again, if you've seen any of my videos, I quite get into my roach fishing quite a lot, and you can probably see in there's some larger bits in there, which not ideal. Certainly for chub fishing, brilliant. But for roach fishing, I like it to be really, really fine. So what I like to do is use a maggot riddle. I think this is a 4mm, by the looks of it. 4mm maggot riddle. I've got a big box here. All I'm going to do is simply riddle this bread. Hang that through there, and as you can see, hopefully, just took all the big bits out. Now they're not wasted either. What I'll do is just collect these up as I go along, and these will all get put back in through there, and we'll blitz it through, and until we're all down to tiny little crumb like that. Right, I'm going to get cracking on this. I can't imagine you want to watch me for the next 20 minutes blitzing half a dozen loaves of bread, but I'll come back to you in a minute when we've gone through all of this, and I'll show you the next stage. So guys, that's the last one of the first pass through. What I'm going to do now is collect all these bits, as you can see, probably in there. Those are all the big bits in that pot, so I've got, which didn't get chopped up in the first pass. So now I'm going to put these through again. You'll find you'll get most of this back. By passing it through again, you'll get most of it down to the size that will go through this riddle. So guys, I think we'll get that. I'm going to let the birds have those. The last few bits, I've had a few more passes of the big bits through the food processor with the blades in, and these bits are obviously really rubbery and they don't want to break down, so that's fine, the birds can have those. But as you can see from that, I happen to know this container is 30 litres, and you can probably see, if you lift that up, we're maybe 2/3 full. So it's about 20 litres of ground bait here from half a dozen loaves. 20 litres of ground bait for just over £1.50. You can't complain at all, can you? Now, you've got two options when you get to this stage for storing it. You can store it exactly like this, literally stick that in the chest freezer, it'll be absolutely fine. Obviously frozen, be lovely. The other alternative, if you struggle for space in your freezers, which I used to do till we bought a new chest freezer, was you can dry it. Now, if I was drying it, I certainly wouldn't do this much at a time. I would probably do just 2 loaves, and that's why I've got this funny shaped box actually, so it's nice and flat, so the surface area of the bread that's exposed is quite high. So you just put a couple of loaves in here, and what I do is every week when we do the weekly shop, I'll buy 2 loaves, cheapy loaves, and what I'll do is dry them out in here. Now, I've found in the summer the best place to dry this is on the passenger seat of my car. I drive to work in the morning, my car sits in the sunlight all day. Within 3 or 4 days, depending how warm it is, it's dry as a bone. Give it a stir on the way to work, give it a stir on the way back when it's next to me as I'm driving home, and it dries out fantastically. And I store it all in a big bucket in the shed, inside a metal bin away from the mice and rats, and it just keeps forever really when it's dry. This, I should probably put some of this in the freezer now, and I should probably put some of this, leave some of this in here and stick this in the airing cupboard, because it will dry in the airing cupboard as well. Now it's getting colder, now we're in October, the heating's on, so the airing cupboard's warm, so this will dry. But as I say, I would never try and dry out quite that much. You're never going to dry the bottom out. It will start to go mouldy before you dried it out. So if you're going to dry it, you're going to be doing bits at a time. I found 2 loaves is ideal in this size container. It's about 500ml that way, 350ml that way, and 150ml that way, just to give you an idea of the scale. And 2 loaves in here will dry within 3 or 4 days, as I say, on the passenger seat of my car or in the airing cupboard. The rest of it will go in a bucket in the freezer. It'll keep lovely, and this is kind of my blank canvas really for my ground bait. I use more commercially bought ones, shop bought ground baits in the summer, but I do mix some of this into it. I like to, as I said at the beginning, I like to dilute it down a little bit, but I use mostly this with a little bit of additives in it in the winter, perhaps some cheesy garlic if I'm after some chub, or a little bit of sort of Census or Angling Bait Company roach if I'm roach fishing, something like that. But I do like to have sort of mostly white crumb, and clearly you can do this with brown crumb as well. You could blitz up some brown loaves and do exactly the same thing. But it's as you can see, it's lovely and fine. I think that's coming across. It's been through that riddle, so there's no particles in here any bigger than 4mm. And like I say, your two options are freeze it or dry it. So really the purpose of the video was just to hopefully save you a few quid. I mean, as you can see, for £1.50 I've got 20 litres of Groundbait here. Obviously, if I dry this, it will reduce down a little bit in volume. But of course, when you rehydrate it, when you're at the river, it comes back again. So you don't lose anything, but you do get absolutely stacks in there. It's lovely and fluffy, and it's already been riddled, which is great as well. So there's no big particles in here. So I hope you've got something useful from the video. So all that's left to do is say thank you very much for watching. Tight lines, enjoy your own angling, and I'll see you on the bank very soon.